Hi, welcome to Prearrangement Stepping Stones. My name is Brian Norris, and I'm the managing of Bateman Funeral Home. And if you're watching this and this is a bad time and you'll want to know more about it, please save it. Please make sure that you can also like this and you can send it to somebody else if you think that somebody else wants to watch this. And if you have any questions, please make sure you indicate below, and we'll try to come back to those and answer those questions. Um, One of the things that we're going to talk about today is what happens when somebody passes away. And that's kind of actually a pretty broad question because it depends on the situations when somebody passes away. Let's kind of go through this step by step. The first one being if you have a loved one that's at a care facility and they pass away at a care facility, hopefully you've had a chance to be able to work with the staff there and to set up a few things. For example, normally when somebody checks into a care facility, they ask who their primary care physician is. They also find out the facility, who the care provider is at the care facility for that person. Then they usually ask you what should you do if a person passes away there. So you'll generally have selected a funeral home in advance to be able to have your loved one go to. And if they pass away at a care facility, generally that care facility will open up the book and follow the directions that are on the book. So, for example, if they ask for Bateman Funeral Home, usually that facility will call us, and it can be day or night, 24 hours a day, and let us know that a person has passed away and our funeral home was selected. And then we go and take that person into our care, and then they will also notify you, and then we will get a hold of you generally within the next 24 hours and talk about what we want to do. A lot of times people take that one step further and already have that person's wishes recorded at a funeral home, and it makes it that much more smooth and easy. If a person passes at a hospital, you might know that they're at the hospital because they have been sick, and so that they go to the hospital. The hospital will generally, like the care facility, have some questions that you'll fill out and answer ahead of time, and say these are what we want to do. We want to have them go to the such and such funeral home, and then they notify us when they pass, and then we go there and take them into our care, and then we do the same thing within 24 hours. Generally, we notify you, and we get together and we make it the final arrangements. Sometimes your loved one goes to a hospital because they were in an accident or an emergency type of a thing, and so all of those little things that were done beforehand, if they're there for long-term care, um, haven't taken place. And so what the hospital will do is if they have a morgue, that person will go to the morgue at the hospital, especially in larger cities, and then the hospital will contact you and ask you what you would like to do. Here in Lincoln County, if somebody were to be at the hospital and they pass away, they don't have a morgue. And so they would be coming to my funeral home. They contact us. We go to the hospital, bring them here. They talk to you. Sometimes, if they're here at my facility and they're from out of town, they're here at the coast on vacation. A lot of times, then another funeral home from that other city will come and pick them up and take them to that city to be taken care of. A lot of times they stay here and we go ahead and take care of everything, especially if it's going to be a simple cremation, and then the families go back to their cities where they live. If a person has passed away at a workplace, there's all kinds of other things that come into play because OSHA is involved, and you have different legal requirements type of a thing. So if they pass away at a workplace, generally they will have called 911. Somebody will have come, whether it be an ambulance or police or fire, and they will have declared that person dead. And then they will be trying to get a hold of a family member to choose what to do. A lot of times, things are going really fast, and you don't have time to, the police don't have a lot of time to sit around. And so what they do, especially in larger cities, is they will contact the funeral home who's on rotation, and they'll come and take them into their care. Sometimes they've been contacted and they transport them to the state medical examiner's office. And so there's a place, so you might get contacted and told that your loved one passed away at work, and now they're at the state ME's office. And then they're going to be asking you what you would like to do from there. A lot of times they go to the state ME because of, there needs to be an autopsy take place because of the type of death that's occurred. If a person was in a car accident, a lot of times they go to the state medical examiner's office. If they were the driver of a multi-vehicle wreck and that type of thing, and there needs to be an autopsy take place. And so you might be calling and saying, I got my loved one at a state medical examiner's office. Can you go transport and take them to your facility? So there's going to be, it all depends on the situation, depends on if you're in a large city that has a morgue, or if you're in a small town that doesn't have a morgue. And like I've been asked before, I had a person call me from Houston one time and say, why is my brother at your place? Why didn't they go to the morgue? Why am I dealing with you? And I had to let that person know I am the morgue because we're a small town. This isn't NCSI where they have a drawer. You see them pulling in and out of a drawer, and that's, they're at some big fancy facility, and you're walking, and you hear them walking down the hall, click, 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 and they come to a drawer. Small towns don't have that. So that kind of thing can all depend, hopefully this kind of clears a few things up as to why people end up at a morgue at a hospital, at a morgue at the state medical examiner's office, or at a morgue in a funeral home, and you're getting a phone call from that. If the person passes away at home, and I've had people ask me because they call ahead of time because they want to get all their ducks in a row because so-and-so's on hospice. Well, what happens is if they're at home on hospice, you'll work with hospice and let them know you've selected a funeral home. When that person passes away, the hospice nurse, not you, the hospice nurse, you call the hospice nurse, they generally come out and confirm that the person has passed away. And then they contact a funeral home and let the funeral home know that they've passed and that we've been selected, and then we come and take them into our care. It's really important because a funeral home has to have a legal release. The person has passed away, and it has to have been by a nurse, by a medical person, by an ambulance person, by a police. They have to declare the person deceased and released to be able to be picked up for me to take into their care. Other types of things can happen at home as well. Maybe you weren't on hospice. I've had a phone call before from a friend who said, I got home and my mom was laying on the floor. What do I do? Well, at that case, if they've died and it's considered unattended because you came home and they passed away and they were dead, then you call 911. They will dispatch somebody there. They will investigate everything to make sure it wasn't from nefarious reasons type of a thing. Maybe you came home and the person was hit over the head. So they have to investigate to make sure that it wasn't an overdose, it wasn't, by unnatural causes. And then they declare the person has passed away. Then they have to contact usually the medical examiner or, the county medical examiner, which is usually the assistant district attorney's department, and a DA or an assistant DA will release the body because they've sent pictures, they've done their investigation, they say that it's now cleared and released to be able to be picked up. Then they contact the funeral home, and then we go in and take them into our care. So that's kind of how things work. If no one was present, that's how that works. If you were hiking or camping, then you have to call the 911 and they come out, they investigate, then they release to the funeral home. So hopefully that gives you some ideas of how things happen when somebody passes away? And I guess the best answer is it all depends. And if you have any other questions or any examples or any concerns, please indicate below, and hopefully we'll take a look at that and clarify in one of our next presentations. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day.